Most people install Claude Code, fire off one lazy prompt, get a mediocre result, and quietly decide it's overhyped. But the problem was never the tool, it was the setup. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to take you from nothing installed to your very first real win. The right way, let's go. Before we touch the terminal, let's get the three things you actually need. And it's only three. First, Node. Claude Code installs through npm, so if you can run node -- version and see a number, you're good to go. If you can't, grab the LTS installer first. It takes about 2 minutes. Second, a terminal you're comfortable in. On Mac that's Terminal or iTerm. On Windows, I genuinely recommend Windows Terminal with PowerShell or WSL, and you do not need to be a command line wizard for any of this. If you can change into a folder, you already know enough. Third, an anthropic account. You'll sign in once the first time you run it. That is the entire shopping list. No Docker, no complicated config files, no plugins to hunt down. If you've got Node, a terminal, and an account, you are about 90 seconds away from running this thing. Okay, let's install it. One command, npm install -g at anthropic-ai/claude-code. The -g installs it globally, so you can run it from any project on your machine. Give it a few seconds. Once it finishes, you just type Claude, and the very first time you run it, it walks you through signing in. A browser window opens, you approve, and you're dropped right back into the terminal, authenticated. That's it. No API keys to pass into config files, no environment variables to wrestle with on day one. From here on, typing Claude in any folder starts a session that can actually see and work with that project. Notice what just happened. We went from nothing to a working signed in tool in about a minute. This is the part people massively overcomplicate. It really is this short. Now here's the step that makes all the difference. And it's the one beginners skip. Do not test it on an empty folder. Point it at a real project, something with actual files in it. So I change into a project, I run Claude, and watch what it does before I even ask for anything. It looks around, it finds my package.json, my source folder, my existing files, and it builds a real picture of what this project is. That context is the entire reason it feels smart. When you ask it to add a feature later, it already knows your structure, your stack, your naming. Compare that to pasting one lonely function into a chat box, where the model is basically guessing in the dark. Same model, completely different result, and the only difference is whether it can see your project. So, a real folder, not a toy. That's beginner tip number one. If you remember one single thing from this whole video, make it this. Create a file called CLAUDE.md in the root of your project. Think of it as a sticky note the tool reads every single time it starts. In it, you write the stuff you tell a brand new teammate on day one, what the project is, the stack you use, your conventions, the command to run the tests, and anything it should never do. It's plain English, nothing fancy, no special syntax, and the payoff is huge. Instead of re-explaining yourself in every prompt, you say it once, and it just remembers. Honestly, this single file is the difference between the people who say it's pure magic and the people who say it's myth. The magic crowd wrote a good Claude.md. The myth crowd didn't. 5 minutes on this file will save you hours, and it is the highest leverage thing a beginner can possibly do. Alright, your first real task, and we're going to do it the right way, in 2 moves. Move 1. Build trust before you hand over the keys. Your very first prompt should not be build me an app. It should be read this file and explain what it does. Let it prove it actually understands your code. Move 2. Give it one small, real job. Watch. I ask it to add a simple function. With a test, it reads the relevant file, writes the code in my existing style, adds the test, and tells me exactly what it changed. And then, this is the habit that separates the pros from everyone else. I actually read the change before I accept it. Small task, clear request, reviewed output. Do that 3 or 4 times, and you'll have a real feel for where it shines and where you need to steer. That feel, that's the whole game. Now, a question I get from every single beginner. Is it actually safe to let an AI run commands on my machine? Fair question, and the answer is yes, because you stay in control by default. Watch what happens when it wants to do something real, like run your tests or install a package. It does not just go and do it. It stops and it asks your permission first, showing you the exact command it wants to run. You approve it, and only then does it execute. Nothing happens behind your back. And once you trust a certain kind of command, say running your test suite, you can allow list it so it stops asking for that one and just keeps moving. But here's your real safety net, and it costs you nothing. Git, commit your work before you let it make big changes. That way, no matter what happens, you're always one command away from rewinding to a clean state. Permission prompts in front of you, Git behind you. That's a setup you can trust completely. Finally, let me save you the frustration of week 1 by naming the mistakes almost everyone makes, so you can just skip right past them. Mistake 1, vague prompt, fix it and run it, tells the model nothing. Say what's broken, in which file, and what done actually looks like. Mistake 2, no context. If you skip the Claude.md, go back and do it. I'm serious, that's the big one. Mistake 3, blindly accepting code you didn't read. If you can't review it, you can't trust it, and you definitely should not ship it. Mistake 4, not using Git. Commit before you let it make big changes, and a bad edit becomes one undo away instead of a disaster. Avoid those 4 and you'll skip about 90% of the reason people bounce off this tool in week 1. Do the setup right, and your very first session actually feels like what everybody promised you. Okay, you're set up and you've done your first task safely. So where do you go from here? Let me leave you with the 3 things that take you from simply working to genuinely fast. First, /commands. The moment you catch yourself typing the same instructions over and over. Your review checklist, your commit style. Save them as a command and fire them off instantly. Second, planning mode. For anything bigger than a quick edit, have it lay out a plan before it writes a single line, so you catch a wrong approach in 10 seconds instead of an hour. And third, sub-agents, letting it spin up focused helpers that research, write, and review in parallel, like a small team working for you. No, you do not need any of this on day 1, but just knowing they're there is what turns this from a neat little trick into the core of how you actually build, and we'll go deep on every one of them in the videos coming next. And that's your setup, Node, one install, a real project, a Claude.md file, and a small first task done right. If this helped, subscribe because the next videos build directly on top of this. And like I promised, drop your questions in the comments, and I'll answer the best ones on camera in the next video. This is prompt and ship. Now go set it up and go build something.